Hey you guys, Daniel here, talking about the latest wine releases here at Vinovium. We released two new wines this fall, the Lot 37 White Rhone Blend and the Ocotillo Red Italian Blend. We're gonna talk about them today. We're gonna do it in two separate videos though. So this is gonna be the video about the Lot 37 and then will be a follow-on video about the Ocotillo. If you've never seen these videos before, this is a great way to learn more about the wines, have a little bit of an intimate time with myself to talk about the wines in greater detail so you have some story, but also a way to create some entertainment and some content for the winery. And that way we're always building our community and sharing our stories and really telling a more compelling story about the wines themselves, but also to bring you into the tasting room if you're not able to visit. And for us, that's very important. Just a couple of quick things. You guys are, if you've seen this video or if you've been to Vinovium, you kind of know our deal. We are open late, 12 to 9, Thursday through Sunday. We have an incredible staff. I think it's the best staff we've had in a really long time, and I'm very grateful to them, and I'm excited to get them in front of you guys to engage and develop your own relationships with them. So in the tasting room currently, we have Tori and Caitlin and Nicole. Obviously, we still have our wonderful animals, Nacho and Luna and Rags, and we're also very dog friendly, so bring your dog, come hang out. And some of the bigger things that are coming down the pipe for Vinovium, the new food program is still in the works. If you come out, we're doing menu testing every weekend, trying to get this in where we want it to be so we can debut and do our grand openings. We will probably be doing menu testing through the end of the year and then look for the new food concept to roll out in January. So we're gonna talk about the Lot 37 today. A lot of people ask, what's the name Lot 37? If you recall, we actually had two wines, a white and a red. One was Lot 37, the wine we're going to talk about today. And we also had a wine called Lot 83. Both of those wines were kind of created in tandem as a white blend and a red blend, kind of this more of a table wine concept, an everyday wine concept, not necessarily a wine, not necessarily a wine that you're going to want to age and sit on for any number of time. It was really just a really great glass of wine, a great bottle of wine that you could drink now. And that mentality kind of permeates still to today. So Lot 37, I guess to kind of get to the point, Lot 37 was actually a wine we named after my dad's birth year. He was born in 1937. He immigrated into the United States, had a very compelling story. He created me, and so I was born in 1983, and that became Lot 83. So the tandem, Lot 37, Lot 83, is really more of an homage to my dad, and so it's really nice to be able to have this wine. This wine itself has not yet been, or hasn't been released in several years because COVID obviously set a lot of things back in terms of our production schedule, but it was time for it to bring it back. We needed a white wine for the spring, which was the Marsanne, and then we needed another white wine for the fall, which is the Lot 37. We've released a couple of whites this year, including the Sketch White. We had a Chardonnay earlier this year as well. And so the Chenin Blanc that we're very famous for, I think that has really built our white wine program. We've lost two vintages of that. We have two different sources, two different vineyard sources for Chenin Blanc. Both of those vineyards have basically been lost 2 years in a row. So we do have a little bit of Chenin that we're releasing next year. And so that's definitely something to look forward to. But Lot 37, what is it? Well, Lot 37 is a white Rhone blend. White Rhone blends are kind of known for a little bit of a savior, and richer style across the board. It's not really meant to be a very fruity wine, and it's not necessarily meant to be a very oaky wine, and it's not meant to be a very kind of light, medium bodied wine. It's definitely medium bodied, kind of medium dry style wine, which kind of makes it a really kind of chameleon-like wine for food and wine pairing, which is why I love it. But it's also one of these wines that it's great by itself, but it also it brings a palate along very nicely in a tasting. So it's like a bridge wine. You know, it allows you to go from something that's lighter bodied, like sparkling wines, generally speaking, and Sauvignon Blancs and Pinot Grigios, and it allows you to have a wine in between that wine and, let's say, a fuller body, drier red wine. And so these richer styles, more like, very akin to a Chardonnay in many ways, they're like bridge wines, both in terms of drinking, but also in terms of the meal and wine at the table. So this wine is coming out at a really perfect time. We're moving into the holiday season. It's November, things are getting cooler. Our foods are shifting into more savory, more earth-driven, more root types of foods. And so, excuse me, this wine definitely keeps up with that. The whole idea is to create a very warm and welcoming and rich wine to kind of pair with warmer, richer styles of food. And I think that that's what we really did here. So I'm gonna do a tasting. We'll talk about the wine, and then we'll end the video and we'll do Ocotillo on the next video. All right, so Lot 37, it is a 3-grape blend. It is a 50% Marsanne from One Way Vineyard, done in collaboration with Michael Barton at Hilmy. It is a 30% Viognier, barrel-fermented, hand-harvested Viognier, done in collaboration with Alan Fetty. We're gonna come back and talk about this barrel-fermented character. And then it finishes with 20% of Roussanne from Oswald Vineyard in the Texas High Plains. So the wine is technically appellated Texas because High Cross Vineyard, where the Viognier comes from, is in Sonora, Texas, not technically within the Texas Hill Country AVA. So here we go, a little tasting. The wine is, as I kind of describe it, it's richer, it's a little bit fuller across the aromatic profile. It's giving off a lot of aroma. It has kind of undertones of tropical fruit, white flowers, and this really nice baked pear component. And there's a little bit of a warm toastiness. For me, it's like comes off like toasted coconut that kind of just brings some complexity and some richness and some intensity across the aromatics. So let's kind of give it a little taste here. Okay, so again, richness and broadness is kind of the theme of the day. The wine has gone through partial malolactic fermentation, so as a result of that, the wine is a little bit softer, a little bit creamier across the palate. It's not as bright and fresh that, let's say, the Marsanne on tap is, or some other lighter bodied whites would be. Those would be wines that have a blocked or stopped malolactic fermentation, so you don't get any of that creamier character, so therefore you maintain bright acidity. This one is kind of a hybrid. It's got some freshness to it, but it's definitely more muted and softer, more baked apple, baked pear, more like melon, cantaloupe type of things. And then that buttery, creamy richness across the palate is definitely prevalent. Mediterranean white wines, Mediterranean white Rhone varietal wines tend to have a really nice kind of fresh herb. In this case, it comes off a little bit more like a sage or a fennel. It's a little bit bitter and aromatic in that regard. Again, it adds complexity for pairing down the line. And then also it tends to be a little bit kind of roasty toasty. And that's very classic, along with some mineral tinge. For me, this mineral tinge comes off a little bit more like a green olive. And so it adds another dimension, but I like wines that have that kind of salty, briny minerality, because if you're the type of person that, in terms of your cooking, for example, if you like foods that are slightly more salty, pairing a wine that has a briny, salty component to it will give you that sensation of salty brininess without actually having to add the salt. And the same thing on the other side, that if you are a cook or a person that likes less salt, it's a way for you to season less and let people kind of dictate what the wine will do and then adjust from there. So again, a lot of considerations with wines that are medium bodied and medium dry, Chardonnay being one of the best examples. There's many different pairing points for that style of wine, both lighter and fuller in body, that you can kind of point to and kind of create a pairing around. And so versatility is obviously kind of one of those star elements to the wine overall. I like the wine overall. It's not my favorite wine, to be honest. I would like a little bit fresher flavors along with that kind of creamier tinge. I think that with this wine, it's one of these wines that if you drink a glass of it, you're gonna get hungry. And I think by itself, it's kind of an incomplete, but I think with a meal, it really shines. And the day that we actually released this wine, we paired it with a corn seafood chowder, And the wine totally shifted not only the food, but the overall pairing point into something that was really just altogether now ideal for the overall style. And so when I say I don't really like this wine, I don't really like it by itself. I need food. It needs a partner in crime, if you will, to kind of bring all this flavor, all this kind of flower, tropical fruit, baked, toasty character, a little bit of a briny character, a little bit of a bitter character. All of those points of interest need some focus, and I think that's what the food will bring it. I do like the wine, you know, a glass here and there, but I think with food, it really does shine. And so to kind of wrap up here, Lot 37, white Rhone blend. It is a wine for us that's very limited. You know, white wines in general are limited with us because we don't know if we're gonna get them. And so when we can get them, they tend to have had issues during the growing season. And so this is a 2021 vintage. 2021, while a good year, was also a short year for our white wines. We lost a lot of white wines in 2021. You know, like I mentioned, the Chenin Blanc, we lost Chardonnay. And so 2022 is not gonna be really any different. And so anytime we can produce whites, we do as much as we can. And we try to hope that that lasts through the vintage. But in reality, they are all very limited wines. I think currently there's, let's call it maybe 50 cases left, 50 equivalent cases. Obviously, these are all going in keg. So about 20 kegs, 25 kegs left of this particular wine. So if a white fall-like white wine is your style, this wine is definitely gonna be your jam. And most people that have tried it, they really enjoy it. And I hope you guys have the opportunity to taste it as well. And we'll see you guys soon. Thank you for your time, and thank you for allowing me to drink wine in front of you while you watch this on TV. Hopefully you have a glass of wine in front of you as well. Talk to you soon.